Um, since your book came out, have your views changed? And where do you feel China today stands?
Well, I can tell you that I'm glad you emphasized that when the West arose and dominated the world, it did so in a very violent fashion.
Yeah.
And to me, one of the great mysteries of my life, which I hope to solve someday, is how is it 100 years ago, in the year 1925, 100,000 Englishmen could effortlessly colonize 300 million Indians? I mean, that's a great mystery to me. Looking at where we are today,
Yeah.
can you imagine? Can you imagine Boris Johnson sending 100,000 Englishmen to come and rule India today? It would be such a joke, right? And
Well,
yet,
one can
what
argue
is
that there's
shocking,
a new form of
that,
digital colonialism that
yeah,
might be
yeah.
given effect to
So
even fewer
what's
people.
amazing is how much life has changed since then.
Yeah.
You know? But going back to U.S. and China, it is actually quite shocking that so few Americans appreciate the fact that China has managed to go from being a very poor country to becoming such a powerful economy, and has done so relatively peacefully. It hasn't fought a major war in 45 years. Now, that in the annals of history will go down as something quite unusual. In fact, as you know, there's a Harvard professor, I'm sure you've met, um, Graham Allison,
Of course.
uh, who's also written a book, as you know,
Yeah, that preceded
called
Japan.
Destined for War, on the US China contest. And in that book, he says Americans keep wishing that China should be like the United States of America. He says, be careful what we wish for. Where China is today is where the United States was in the 1890s when it emerged as a great power.
Yeah.
And and as soon as America became a great power, what did it do? Declared war on Spain, seized a territory called Philippines on the other side of the world. You know, so frankly, it is normal for great powers to exercise their military muscles very quickly. For China not to have done so is a historical aberration. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't do it in the future, but so far they've been rising peacefully, and so it will be in America's national interest to try and continue to see China emerge peacefully rather than emerge as a belligerent power, which is why, one of the central insights of my book, Has China Won, is an insight that was given to me by Henry Kissinger in a one-on-one lunch I had with him in 2018, where he said, whereas the Chinese have a long-term strategy for managing their rise, which is how they manage to rise peacefully, but the Americans don't have a comprehensive long-term strategy for managing the rise of China, which is why you get this all kinds of ad hoc measures being taken against China with no strategy or long-term game plan. In my book, Has China Won, I say that if you want to formulate a long-term strategy, you got to answer 10 questions, which I spell out in Has
Yeah.
China Won. And I must say, I'm not doing this as an enemy of the United States. I'm doing this as a friend of the United States. Hey, saying, hey, you're getting yourself into a big contest. Why don't you first work out a strategy?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do? And even when you want to work out a strategy, the first thing you got to do, a strategy is for a purpose of achieving some goals. So what are the goals you're trying to accomplish? Are you trying to isolate China? Are you isolate the Soviet Union? Cannot be done. Because China trades more with the world than the United States does. You can't isolate China. Are you trying to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party? It cannot be done. Because the Chinese Communist Party, having delivered the best 50 years of development, right, that China's ever had, enjoys a tremendous amount of domestic legitimacy within China. And so, are you trying to, you know, uh, in one way or another, uh, stop China's economic development? It cannot be done.
Yeah.
Right now, the Chinese have invested so much into the industries of the future. You can't stop China's growth anymore. And let me just give you two statistics so that every person listening to this show must understand how phenomenal China's rise has been. You know, as you know, Deng Xiaoping launched the Four Modernizations Program in 1979. In 1980, the combined GNP of the European Union was 10 times the size of China.
Yeah.
Today, China and Europe are about the same size. By 2050, Europe will be half the size of China. So imagine in the space of one human lifetime, 70 years, 1980 to 2050,
Yeah.
Europe is going to go from being 10 times bigger than China to
To
half the
half.
size. Right? That's
Phenomenal.
future historians will look at this and see, wow, this is amazing that it happened. Now let me give you another statistic. In the year 2000, China's share of global manufacturing was 5%. By 2030, it'll be 45%. Now, these are incredible leaps that
Yeah.
China
No,
has made.
absolutely. Absolutely.
China is not perfect. China's got challenges. China's got problems. Over the next 2-3 years, Chinese economy is going to struggle, no question.
Yeah.
But ask yourself, where will China be 10 years from now?
Yeah.
The Chinese never think in 2 months or 2 years or 3 years. That's
Yeah,
not their
correct.
time frame.
They're known for long term, correct.
And if you ask yourself, which leading economy in the world has invested more in the industries of the future than any other economy? It's China. No, whether it's electric vehicles,
Yeah.
solar panels, wind turbines, battery technology, even many fields of AI, quantum.
Yeah.
China has invested so much in these areas.
No,
So
absolutely.
to think that you can stop China